Hey guys, episode 7 of the Next Season podcast. Today we're talking about effort. Effort is the second pillar of Next Season athletes, and I'm going to give you the 5 bricks, the 5 traits or attributes that demonstrate elite level effort, right? These are the 5 bricks that build and demonstrate elite level effort. I want to start with a quick story first though. And this is your classic cliche story that you've probably heard 100 times, but yet it still happens everywhere. When I was in college, we had a mix of teammates, right? Like not just personalities, but certainly different levels of skills and talents and goals, different work ethic, different effort, of course, different maturity levels. We had one teammate in particular, and this guy was an absolute stud. I mean, he could mash. He could run well. He threw the ball well. He was pretty well rounded. And he could play multiple positions, so he's versatile. But the dude had massive power, and he could hit it for average too. The problem was he didn't care. He had all the talent in the world, but there was zero drive to get better. He just went through the motions and he did the bare minimum. And this was his entire college career. It was infuriating as a teammate and as a friend because he was that good. He had the whole world in front of him. He was getting, just from a numbers perspective, he was getting looks. Scouts were there. Teams were interested. He had the gifts and abilities that so many players would give anything for, and he didn't care. And even when he was confronted about it multiple times, his answer was basically, "It's all good. I'm good." Like, and just you couldn't pull it out of him. On the other hand, I had teammates that were full of grit and hustle and effort. And a couple of them in particular that I'm thinking of, there's 2 in particular who had limited talent. I mean, they were good ball players, but they weren't great, but they were tough as nails. They busted their butts all the time. We had a lot of teammates that were really hard workers, that had legit work ethic and tons of heart. And they, as a team, we showed up early, we stayed late. There was a lot of great teammates, but these 2 in particular stand out because they didn't get much playing time at all. They were on the team all 4 years. They did really well in the classroom. They were leaders on the team. They were gamers. They were always at the front of the line, always leading morning workouts. They were mentoring younger players. They led study halls. They did all of it, and they hardly played. Who would you rather have on your team? That stud who can absolutely mash, but like you just can't get it out of him. He just doesn't care. Or would you rather have a team full of guys who play the game well, play the game the right way, are great teammates, give everything they have every time they step on the field, every time they're in the classroom, just solid human beings? Who would you rather have? I think the answer is pretty clear. And so that's what we would talk about with effort. So for talent, we had more literal names for the bricks. We had body, we had mind IQ, we had mind EQ, body language, and character traits. Those were our 5 bricks. So it's pretty clear what we were talking about. For the remaining pillars, so for effort, ambition, and mindset, I'm going to use some more baseball terms as analogies to paint the picture a little bit. And you'll see what I mean as we go through it. So let's rock with this. So the simple definition of effort is what you do and how you show up physically. What you do and how you show up physically. And put it into an equation, it's time plus attention plus energy. It is the time plus attention plus energy that you put towards an activity. It's the amount of time you commit, the focus and attention you demonstrate, and how much physical energy, that actual energy you put towards it. So time plus attention plus energy. That's how I define effort. The first brick in the effort pillar is what I call spark plug. And this is exactly what it sounds like. When I think of the personification of effort on a baseball field, it's the spark plug. That's your rally starter. That's your high energy, always hustling, no quit, your grinder, your gamer. This is all about energy. It's all about hustle and the fun, the joy that you bring to the game, right? The spark plug in your car is what gets it moving. And on the baseball field, it's all about playing with soul. It's bringing an identity in 100% of yourself to what you do. So again, spark plug is all about pushing forward with that positivity and that optimism. It's about showing controlled aggression and taking initiatives. Something we talk about on my son's team all the time is the idea of predator versus prey. And my question is, which one are you? Are you the predator going towards your opponent, towards the ball, going for that kill? Or are you the prey, hoping that the ball isn't hit to you, waiting for the perfect pitch, playing it safe? So it's important that, you're under control, but when you're out there, it's not about avoiding mistakes. It's about playing to win, not playing to lose. It's about going all in, emptying the tank. Like, you walk off that field knowing that you gave every bit of yourself and left nothing to chance. You don't want to end the game or life really with unused energy. And I want to call out something important here, and it's part of playing with soul. It's about the love of the game and the passion for what you do, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, right? Even when it's a grind. As you advance levels, it becomes more and more of a job or a business to play the game. But at the end of the day, you get to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I dive into some neuroscience a bit. And this is one of the unique elements of what I do. Obviously, I'm going to try to keep things as light and simple as possible. We're going to have raw and real conversations and fun conversations and bring on experts. But I also want to make sure that what I'm saying isn't just my ideas and stuff that I make up. These are concepts and tools that are backed by science. And I'm going to sprinkle this stuff into what we talk about. So the first one I want to talk about is this whole idea of playing with love versus playing out of fear. And what happens when you play the game out of fear versus playing with love and passion. So if you play the game out of fear, when I say the game, this is obviously on the baseball field, but this isn't everything that you do. If you play the game out of fear, so fear of mistakes, fear of failure, fear of losing, fear of other people's opinions, physical fears like fear of getting hit by a ball or the fear of getting thrown out or the fear of anything. When you play with fear, your brain's survival system is activated. Fear triggers what's called the fight, flight, or freeze response. I know that you've heard of this, but that's managed by the amygdala, which is a part of the brain that handles emotions and survival instincts. And so when that amygdala kicks in, it releases stress hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline or epinephrine. And when this happens, it helps you respond to immediate threats. So when you're in a life or death situation, you want that stress response. You want that amygdala to kick in because that's helping you survive. But in a performance setting, these stress hormones actually do the opposite. They make you more tense, they make you less focused and more reactive. So in other words, when you play with fear, it shifts your brain into survival mode where your goal is just to avoid messing up rather than playing loose and free and being at your best. On the other hand, when you play out of love, right, when you're enjoying the game, when you're connecting with teammates and you're fully immersed in the experience, you're engaging your brain's reward system, which is driven by dopamine. So again, playing out of fear is cortisol and adrenaline or epinephrine. When you're playing out of love, it's dopamine. And dopamine, a lot of times people think that dopamine is a reward. It's actually more of a motivator system. So it's the anticipation of results more so than it is the accomplishment or the achievement of certain results. So dopamine is a feel-good transmitter, a neurotransmitter that boosts motivation and focus and enjoyment. And it activates parts of the brain like the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for higher level thinking and decision making and concentration. So when dopamine is flowing, you're in a more relaxed state. A lot of times people call this flow. That can be misused sometimes, but certainly in the sports world, we call it being in the zone. Like when you're just in the zone, you're just rolling, right? Like you're not really thinking about it. It's not a learning state, but you're just playing. You're playing loose and playing free. And studies show that athletes in a flow state have lower cortisol levels and higher dopamine levels, allowing them to perform at their best with a greater sense of ease and control. When you're in this state, your body is able to conserve energy. So we're all about putting in effort, and the longer and more effort that you can put into it, the better it's going to be. But you also want to do it not at the expense of your reserves and the amount of fuel that you have. You want to be able to conserve that energy. And so again, being in that loose and free state can help you conserve energy, handle stress more effectively, and respond creatively to challenges or obstacles rather than reacting. And here's where it gets even more interesting. So fear actually reduces our ability to take in new information and process small details, which is why you might miss certain cues or certain things that happen on the field or in life because your mind isn't able to pick it up. So fear narrows your vision, but when you're playing with love, your brain becomes more perceptive, right? It's able to see things. And this is, you're not even thinking about this, but you're able to make faster connections. You're able to adapt in real time. So yeah, a little bit of fear is useful to keep you alert, but too much fear drags you into that survival mode. And to be at your best, you want to play with love. You want to play loose. You want to play free. You want to play with a sense of joy and purpose. And this is just some of the neuroscience that we're going to get into. So the next time that you have those feelings, those nerves creeping in, and you're feeling hesitant, you're feeling scared, you just have those feelings of fear, take a deep breath, okay? Practice some breathing. You're going to take a deep inhale through your nose. You're going to hold it for 4 or 5 seconds. You're going to slowly exhale out of your mouth, and this is going to calm the amygdala and help shifting back into a more focused or positive state. There's also a different breathing technique which actually can help as well. It seems counterintuitive, but it's kind of the opposite, and it's actually increasing your breathing. I'm not a breathing expert. What I probably should do is bring on some breathing experts that can help with certain breathing tactics to be able to modulate this, because there are times when you want to put yourself in a calmer state. There are times when you want to put yourself in a more alert state, and different breathing techniques to do each of these. So that's the first brick. That's spark plug. That's a lot of information, I know. That's just the first brick of the 5 bricks for the effort pillar. The second brick is what I call the top step player. This is the player who is always at the top step of the dugout. They're engaged, they're encouraging, right? No matter what the situation is, no matter how they're doing personally in that game, they were all in for their teammates. And there's a few key attributes of top step players I'm going to call out. And the last one that I'm going to call out is a big one, and it may not be what you expect. The first trait, the first attribute of a top step player is selflessness. A top step player isn't just focused on their own stats. They're selfless. It's about service. They put the team first. They're the kind of player who is all about helping their team. It's about serving them, right, on and off the field. Along with that, of course, it's about producing. And I don't just mean on the field performance. Obviously, that's a part of it. But more than that, it's the value that you add. Okay, it's not just on the field performance. It's the value that you add. And it's depositing value and contribution more than you withdraw from other people. And a good ratio to consider is 3 to 1. So you want to produce 3 times. You want to provide 3 times more value than you consume, right? Or you take from others. Give more than you take. And this is actually a really good rule for business too. The great Gary V, if you don't know who that is, Gary Vaynerchuk, a tremendous businessman, tremendous leader. He has a framework for business and sales and marketing. It's called jab, 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 right hook. The idea is jab, 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 right hook. Okay. So you're going to give, you're going to give, you're going to give to build trust, to build credibility, to build goodwill. And then you're going to ask when you need to. And when you're a top step player, you produce 3 to 1. You're 3 times more productive than you are consuming. A top step player is the light for their teams in tough times and challenging situations. You need to be the person that people can count on, that provides light, that's humor, that's optimism, it's belief, and the example for executing. The final attribute that I want to highlight in the top step player brick is stewardship. And stewardship means you take responsibility for something valuable and you commit to leaving that thing or just anything in general better than you found it. So you take responsibility for something, and your whole purpose is that you leave it better than you found it. You want to borrow somebody's car, fill up the gas tank when you return it. Okay, that's an example of stewardship. When it is in your possession, you take care of it. Are you the one who's getting the plugs and the bases before and after practice? Are you making sure the dugout is clean before you leave? And it's those little things that matter. Coaches notice, because when you do the little things well, you're going to be able to be trusted for the big things. Stewardship establishes a legacy that you leave and the positive impact you make on those around you. And really what it's about is it's about treating the game and your teammates and your community with respect and setting an example that other people can follow. So that's the second brick. That's top step player. Okay. The third brick of the effort pillar is small ball. And remember, I just said part of stewardship is being trusted to do small things. And here it's about focusing on the small, consistent actions and habits that lead to success. We all want the big home run moment, right? We all want the big win, the big success, right? But all of those big successes come from nailing fundamentals day in and day out. In the military, in martial arts and shooting and a number of other activities, there's a saying, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And the whole point of this is that when you slow down and you focus on the fundamentals, the little things, the little maneuvers, the little steps in the process, the results are going to be much more consistent, and you'll be able to perform them faster over time. Another part of small ball is about discipline and consistency, right? Understanding the rule of compounding and those daily disciplined habits, right? The consistency of small actions done over time makes such a difference. Another big piece of this brick is something I call active patience. And I'm not a very patient person. Patience is really hard. Earlier, I'm talking about being aggressive and being a predator, being a spark plug, emptying the tank. And now I'm telling you to be patient. So what's up with that? Patience is often misrepresented and it's misunderstood. And when you think about patience, you might think it means sitting around and waiting for something to happen, waiting for a strike, waiting for the ball to come to you, waiting for your turn to pitch. And of course, there's many examples off the field as well. And that's not always an accurate description of patience. That could be disengagement. That could be distraction. That could be laziness. Real patience, what I call active patience, is different. Patience is working while you wait. Patience is creating a momentum in the meantime. It's not a passive thing that you do. Patience is actually a very active thing. So when you're batting and you're told to be patient, it typically means you're gonna take the pitch until you get exactly what you're looking for. So when you get that sign from a coach and he tells you to be patient, are you still making it look like you're gonna swing? Are you standing here like this, like, now I've got to take a pitch, I can't spin the bat, I'm here to hit. Or are you tracking that pitch into the catcher's mitt, right? Are you tracking? On defense, are you just standing there? Or are you prep setting? Are you getting into the backup positions? There's work to do in the waiting and momentum that you can build in the meantime. That's all about active patience. I think of all of these, the discipline, the consistency, the active patience, the mastering the basics, the slowing down to speed up. All of these are something I call process habits. Those little routines and disciplines that build up over time, again, compounding, and you give little attention or weight to the results or the outcomes, but you focus on the process. I heard a great story a little while ago, and I wish I remembered where I heard it, but it was about Joey Votto. And the story was that he had a game where he had 2 or 3 hits or something like that. And after the game, one of the coaches came up to congratulate him, and Joey just wasn't having it. He's like, I didn't have good at bats. Like, don't come congratulate me. I didn't follow my process. I didn't follow my approach. And the next game, he went out and he had an offer, 0 hits. And I'm sure you can guess the rest of the story, but he was happy about it because he followed his game plan. He had good at bats. He had good swings. He followed his process. It wasn't about the results to him. He knew that if he followed his process, he could have micro situations where you could do everything wrong and still get a hit, and you could do everything right and still not get a hit. But over time, over the course of a season, and certainly over the course of a career for him, it was about the process. And when you do the right things consistently, the results will come. You do the right things the right way, it will produce the results. Another big thing that we hear about all the time is routines, specifically morning routines. And I think there's value in this. I have them, right? I think morning routines are really, really important, but there's a twist to this. There's just some nuance I want you to think about. Adaptability is key. You're not going to be able to go up to every at bat waiting for the perfect fastball to hit. Life's going to throw curveballs at you, and you cannot rely on the perfect conditions in order to perform. If you can't adapt to the situations and feel like you can only proceed with your day when you get through all of your routines and you check every single box and you have everything perfectly lined out, how do you think you're going to perform when the conditions change, right? There's a balance. I think it's critical to take ownership and control of as much of the conditions as you can And I think that routines matter, but you have to be able to show that you can perform when things go sideways. And how you do this is you train yourself to adapt, and you train yourself to show up and to perform and execute in any condition, in any situation. Elite performers don't require perfect or even ideal conditions. They embrace adversity. They seek it out. They look for hard things to do because they know that's how you grow. And so something that might help with this is to be directionally consistent in your routines and your habits. Be directionally consistent, but understand you're not going to have perfect conditions all the time, and to be okay with that and to show up and perform anyway. So that's the third brick. That's small ball. The fourth brick is PIER, P-I-E-R, and it stands for purpose or presence. I use both. It's either presence or purpose in every rep. And this was about showing up fully, not just physically, but mentally in every single rep that you do. Every rep in the gym, every drill, every ball hit to you, every moment of practice, okay? Every pitch, every play, every interaction off the field, every class you're in, every moment, right? It's not enough just to be there. Being there physically is proximity. Proximity is not presence. Presence means having your mind and body in the same place. And we've all seen players go through motions, right? Those half-hearted swings in the cage, mindlessly shagging balls during BP, not really caring. The great ones know that every single rep matters. Every pitch matters. Whether they're in the play or not, they have an opportunity to learn something. They have an opportunity to pick something up. When I say we process the past and we perform in the present and we prepare for the next, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that in that moment, right? In that moment that you're in right now, you have an opportunity of responsibility to be great in that moment. And that's fully present, fully absorbed. This pitch. And neuroscience shows that focus and presence can actually deepen skill development because of the brain's neuroplasticity. So that's the ability for the brain to change and to grow. And it works best when we're fully engaged and focused with something. So if you want to improve something, you got to be fully present and focused. When you practice with focus, you're literally wiring your brain to perform at a higher level that you aspire to achieve. That's presence. Purpose is the why behind what we're doing. So why are you here, right? Why are you here? Why are you playing? What's your reason for putting in the work? No matter what it is, you have to be able to tap into your purpose and play with that intention and presence. When you do this, and when you remind yourself while you're playing, when those times get tough, when the situations get hard, right? When you're going up to the next level and becomes more of a job, understanding this and knowing this is going to give you that extra bit of gas, right? That extra bit of motivation and self-determination to be able to persevere. There are studies on motivation and intrinsic drive that suggest that when we have a clear and internal sense of purpose, we're not only more driven, but we're more resilient in the face of setbacks, right? When we don't make the team that we want, when we're in a slump, when we're 2 for our last 35, right? We develop resilience to be able to come through that on the other side. I also want to note that a big factor that people face today is distractions. I didn't have a cell phone until I was a junior in high school. And even then it was the Nokia standard issue, 50, whatever it was, right? And most of you have no clue what that is, but it sure wasn't a smartphone and it wasn't a distraction. But within a few years, as new technologies, new phones came out, all of that changed. The distractions are now in our hands and in our pockets, and it consumes us. The impact that it has on focus and attention and performance and mental health is being studied more and more, and it's a major issue. So when you have these distractions, and I understand you're going to face these distractions, it is literally in your face, right? It's in your pocket. And I want to give you a practical tool that can help with it. It's called the 10-minute rule. And if you're tempted to check your phone, if you're tempted to tune out during practice or any other distraction you have, I want you to give yourself permission to do that, right? You gave yourself permission to get distracted. But the rule is you have to delay it for 10 minutes. You have to wait 10 minutes before you do it. And so what neuroscience tells us is that when we resist those distractions, we're actually strengthening our brain's executive function, the part of our brain that's responsible for that self-control and that sustained attention. And you're strengthening that and you're conditioning it to say, I'm in control. You as a person are in control and you are able to stay focused. And so that 10-minute delay might seem small, but it builds mental resilience and trains your brain to stay on task. Oftentimes you may not even want to get distracted then. So look, when you get distracted, it's hard. You cannot be at your best. And when the conditions aren't ideal and you're not able to have your routines, it's hard to be at your best. If you're having a bad day, it's hard to be at your best. But elite performers understand that no matter the situation, you are in the present moment. And in that present moment, you have a chance to be at your best. You have a chance to be great in that moment. You can delay the bad feelings. You can delay the bad day. But I challenge you to be great in that moment. That's the fourth brick. Presence or purpose in every rep. The fifth brick, the final brick, is leather skin and iron will. And this one is all about physical and mental toughness. And there's a couple materials that I think about for baseball. It's the tough leather of that glove, holding up over time and protecting your hand. And of course, iron. The Iron Horse, Lou Gehrig, and the Iron Man, Cal Ripken, two of the toughest and most durable athletes in any sport. And pain, obviously, is a part of every sport, both physical and mental. But pain has purpose. So the pain that we experience is actually a protective mechanism. So it alerts us to potential harm. And it's our response to pain that helps shape our growth. In baseball, you're going to face discomfort. You're going to be tired, right? Your arm's going to be sore. You're going to get hit by a pitch. You're going to get hit by a comebacker. You're going to take bad hops off your chest or off your face or other places. You're going to pull muscles. You're going to jam your fingers, dive into bases. We had a kid recently, dove back into first base. First batter of the game reaches base, dives back into first base, breaks his finger. You're going to get eternal raspberries and brush burns on your legs and your elbows. And catchers, that you're going to take a beating all the time. This is life. You must understand that pain isn't just physical. It's actually multidimensional. It is more than just physical. And it's shaped by psychological and social factors. For example, pain can linger in your brain even after the body is healed. In neuroscience, this phenomenon is called central sensitization. Central sensitization. Okay. I'm not even going to try to say it. It's the brain and nervous system that adapt to expect pain in certain situations. And you'll see this. I know I see this as a youth baseball coach. Kids get hit by a pitch, and then for years, you can see the fear and discomfort they have to stand in the box. So they bail out, they step out. This is central sensitization. There, I got it. So when you see those players that are scared to get in the box, it's because even after their body has healed and that pain is gone, they associate that action with pain, and it becomes psychological. So we can understand that pain is adaptive, right? Our brain can actually learn to handle pain better over time, and we have to train ourselves to do that. And we can do this through physical training and mental conditioning. Athletes can cultivate mental toughness by training their brains to manage discomfort rather than let it take control. Again, going into the science of this, there's something called cognitive reframing, and it's changing how you interpret sensations or challenges. And it's a really, really powerful tool. So one way to do this is what you say to yourself. So instead of saying, oh, this hurts, I should stop, a mentally tough person might say, this is challenging, but I can handle it. So this hurts, I should stop. This is challenging, but yet I can handle it. Think of it this way. Pain is information. You don't need to be afraid of discomfort if you know that discomfort is making you stronger. And this is a big, big topic. It's part of every level of every sport in every profession. Physical and mental toughness are incredibly, incredibly important. And I learned this the hard way. But it's because of this, I want to leave you with some really specific tools and tips to consider that I think can help. So first is for my athletes. If you're on the field and you get hurt, let's say you get hit by a pitch, I want to provide you a very simple tool that you can look to apply and remember. Coaches and parents, you can use this too. You get hit, you get hurt, something happens, okay? It's called the sea walk, SEA walk. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to shake it off. You're going to shake it, right? And it's actually shake it. You get hit on the hand, shake your hand. There's something called gait control theory. And basically it describes how our natural response when we get hurt, right? When we get hit by a pitch, we get hit on the hand, we shake it or we rub it, right? And that actually has an effect on managing the pain. It serves as an initial reclamation of control in that moment. And that physical touch and the movement of that limb actually stimulates, I won't say healing, but it has an effect on managing the pain. So that's the first step, is shake it, okay? Shake it off. The second part of this is exhale. So again, going back to our breathing, deep breathing, especially with prolonged exhales, activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And this is the system that's responsible for the body's ability to kind of rest and digest and reset. So it helps reduce stress. It helps promote relaxation. So when you activate that parasympathetic nervous system, you can counteract the body's fight or flight response, which again is often triggered by pain, and that's our stress response, okay? That's our survival mode, okay? So it's good to have survival mode, but in that moment, you're trying to regain control and you're trying to step into the parasympathetic system. So it's about exhaling and breathing. So we got shake it off, we've got exhale, then it's affirmation. Say positive affirmations. I'm tough. That hurt and it sucks, but I'm good. I'm a tough player. I've got this. Remind yourself that pain is part of the game, is part of your growth. So there's your SEA, okay? Shake it off, exhale, affirmation, and then walk to first. Walk it off, okay? The idea is that you physically pull yourself up, move forward despite that pain. So if you're hit by a pitch, you head to first base. If you're in left field and you get hurt, get up and walk towards first base. Obviously, when the play's over, right, and everything's taken care of, and that's assuming you can walk, right? But walk towards first base. You are giving yourself a target. It is going to reset your focus to the present moment, and you're taking control and ownership, and you're moving towards that target. So no matter where you are on that field, shake it off, exhale, affirmation, walk to first. There are obviously going to be some times where you're injured and you shouldn't play through it. It's an important thing to understand that there's a distinction between being hurt and having and putting yourself in harm's way. Like, and it's really, really important to have that distinction between hurt and harm. Pain that is not causing harm does not need to be avoided. Okay. So play hurt. Okay. Assuming that it's not harming you. When you build that reputation for being tough, when you have that reputation for having leather skin and iron will, your coaches and teammates are going to be able to trust you more. They know that if you say you're good to go, they can count on you. And they know that when you say you're hurt, you can't, they don't question it. But if you're always hurt or saying that you're hurt, there's always a nagging injury, okay? People are going to have naturally less patience and trust. And I'm sorry to say it, that's just the reality. I learned this the hard way. I'm not going to say that they don't believe you, but it could be a factor. And it comes down to trust and reliability. So again, shake it off. Affirmations. Tell yourself, build that identity of yourself that you are tough, and it will start to happen. For parents, I think it's really natural to want to step in and protect your child from pain or discomfort, right? But it's really important to let them work through it and not get super responsive and reactive to a situation. When your child is able to understand that they can persevere and they can fight through it, it's going to build confidence and it's going to build resilience and grit. Oftentimes, kids, especially younger kids, are going to look to their parents for cues on how to react and how they should respond to their own injury by how the parents react. If you stay calm and give them space, they're more likely going to be calm about the situation too. A couple of years ago, we were at a water park in the Dominican, and my daughter, who was probably 7 at the time, was running towards the stairs to go up for a water slide. And I was probably like 15 yards behind her. And right when she reached the stairs, she slipped, she wiped out and fell flat on her back on the concrete. And fortunately, she didn't crack her head, but I didn't run towards her. I didn't react. I just kind of kept casually walking towards her. I was walking behind her, and I didn't make a big deal out of it. And another parent saw this and like, oh my gosh, they started freaking out. Like, is she okay? Is she okay? I'm like, she's fine. And my daughter got up and she was fine because she saw the way that I responded or didn't respond to it. And she knew that everything was okay. But if I had responded with panic, I can guarantee you that her response would have reflected that as well. And it wouldn't have been a good situation. So it's certainly not the biggest injury that she's had. And the same for my son. They've had some doozies. But most often, the best support that you can give is showing confidence in their ability to handle the situation themselves. Building toughness. Again, that leather skin and iron will isn't about being immune to pain. Just like being courageous isn't about not having fear. It's about learning how to handle it with resilience and staying composed. So there you have it. There are your 5 effort bricks: the spark plug, the top step player, small ball, presence or purpose in every rep, and leather skin and iron will. And I want to leave you with this. And I know we kind of talked about it with the Joey Votto story, but it's really, really important to praise and to recognize and reward effort over results, over outcomes, right? Praising that effort and recognizing and rewarding that effort in the process over results is really, really important. You cannot always count on results, okay? It's the accumulation and the consistency and the discipline and the effort over time that's going to lead to success. So focus on effort, not on results or outcomes. Thanks for tuning in to episode 7. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a friend, a teammate, subscribe. And I challenge you to put in work, to put in that effort this week on these 5 bricks. Okay? The spark plug, top step player, play small ball, purpose and presence, and focus and intention in every rep. And then how are you building your mental and physical toughness? So we'll see you next time.